Good morning, everyone. IMS welcomes you to the Future You webinar series as a part of Set Your Career Compass Right with expert insights. And today we will be covering a very popular topic on management consulting. Today's topic will mainly be focusing on the interview process, metrics for evaluation, types of cases to prepare for interviews, how to convert an internship to placement, exit opportunities, and day to day life of a management consultant, to name a few. Please feel free to send through your questions via the Q&A or chat, and we will be happy to cover them in our session today. Joining us in our session today is our speaker for today, who is Sharad Bang. Sharad is a management consultant with Boston Consulting Group for around 2 years now. By profession, Sharad is a chartered accountant and has also completed his MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur in 2022. And Sharad also has an experience of working with ENI. So, Sharad, I would like to welcome you to our webinar today, and over to you to take over.
Thanks, Bhagirathi, for the introduction. I think my bad. Yeah, sure. So, given it's a Sunday morning, I'll not bore the participants with a lot of, gyan. I will just quickly give some quick insights on on how to get into management consulting and a few other topics, and then we can leave the floor open for participants to ask any questions. Okay, so I'll just begin with the interview process for management consulting. I'm assuming that most of these people will be joining their MBA colleges in the coming season, which will begin in around a month or two. So their summer internships will happen around September, October, November types. So some very quick tips on how to get into those management consulting internships, be it and this process is similar for all the consulting firms, be it MEC or BCG or Bain, Accenture or any other firm, so to say. So the process of getting into these roles is basically it's a 1 month interview process where you practice a lot of cases. So when I say when you practice a lot of cases, that is to say you try to replicate some real life business problems in terms of cases. So for example, it could be as simple as a company is facing very high costs. How do you reduce the cost, or how do you increase the profit? So you go through various structures. For example, if the company is experiencing a decline in profits, then what would you do? Either the sales has gone down or the cost has gone up. If the cost has gone up, then is it the variable cost or the fixed cost? If it's a fixed cost, then what sort of fixed cost is it? Is it some plant or machinery cost? Is it some employee cost? Is it some rent or something? So typically you practice these sort of cases. There are profitability cases, there are market entry cases where a company wants to launch a new product, or there are merger and acquisition cases. A company wants to acquire B company. Should they do it? Should they not do it? These sort of cases. So the process typically is, once you get a shortlist, you need to practice these sort of cases, and in your final interview also you are given a very similar case, that suppose you are dealing with a client, the client is facing so and so problem, how will you address the problem? So the focus is mostly on the structure. But I think I've just missed one leg before this. Even before getting the shortlist, what do you want in your CV to get that shortlist? I think that might be more pressing questions for a lot of people. So I'll just quickly tell you what do management consulting firms typically see when they are reviewing the CVs of candidates. So see, one is you should have some spike in your CV. And when I say some spike, you could be an all India ranker, or you could have very brilliant scores across 10th, 12th, your graduation, some sort of medal, gold medalist, silver medalist, something. Or it can also be non-academic, which is to say you are a district level player, you are a state level player in some sports, say badminton, or you have represented your state in a Ranji tournament or anything of that sort. So there has to be some spike, and then there has to be there has to be some variety in your CV. You cannot have just academics on your CV. You should have done something else outside of academics also. You may be associated with a not for profit. You may be pursuing sports, or you may have written a book, or you may have done any such sort of internship in your area of interest. So it's not just academics, it is academics plus other things, and there has to be some spike. This is typically the structure we look for when we are shortlisting the CVs. So just ensure that whatever is the spike in your CV, whatever is your highlight. So for example, I'm a chartered accountant. I'm also a cost accountant with an all India rank 5. So this was my spike. So I ensure that it comes on the top of my CV as a flag that this is my profile. And then of course, all the other things, like I had participated in a few sport tournaments. I had worked with an NGO for 2 years. So all those things make up my other extra activities sort of section. So once that is sorted, and once you get that shortlist, after that, coming to the interview prep process, where as I said, you need to practice a lot of cases. And typically how the case prep goes on is, so for example, there has to be someone who takes the interview, who takes the case. So for example, if we both are practicing, I will give you a problem statement, then you can ask me certain questions as to so typically, the profits have declined, so you will ask me whether the sales have declined or the costs have gone up. I'll tell you, okay, the sales have been, more or less constant. Our costs have gone up. The next question will be, is it fixed cost or variable cost? So it has to be two-person process where one person conducts the interview, and the one who's conducting the interview already knows the answer to the problem, already knows the solution to the problem. And the one who's taking the interview, the one who's practicing the case needs to reach to that solution. So this is typically how the interview process happens. Once that is done, we move on to the summer internship part, where it's a 2-month internship. In fact, the internships have just ended for a lot of these people. Their summer internships were just ended for all IMA, BC, XL, IMK, all these colleges. It's a 2-month internship where you are actually staffed on a live case. Within 2 months, you need to solve some module. You're given a module typically. For example, this is your module, so to say that even if there's a cost part, okay, the costs have gone up. Now there can be multiple levers of cost. So one of those levers is chosen and given to you, that within your 2-month span, 1.5 month span, you need to identify why this cost has gone up, and then you need to come up with some recommendations. Now, how we do it, how we do this day in, day out is we do a lot of expert calls. So, for example, I'm a chartered accountant. If I'm given a problem statement of reducing the cost of a plant, I have no plant experience. I'm not an engineer. I don't know anything about it. So, how it typically goes about is I do a lot of expert calls. We have in-house experts also within BCG. Then there are expert agencies. We understand from them what is the process. We try to understand what our competitors are doing, what the best in class player is doing. So for example, if my plant is high cost, there might be some plant which is lower cost. What is it that they are doing right which I'm not doing it right? So I benchmark against my peers, their practices, their metrics, and then I try to go to the root cause of the problem. And then how to, depending on the client situation, we just sort of try to find some ways to figure out how to solve that problem. So that is how typically it looks day in, day out. A lot of our work involves client interaction, because to understand the business and to give any recommendation to the client, you first need to build a rapport with the client. So we interact with them day in, day out. And even when we are proposing any recommendation, we need to make sure that the client is also comfortable with the recommendation. It is doable, it is practical, it is not something which just can't be done. So this is typically how how we work to solve the problem. So this is a very quick brief about this entire management consulting, right from getting a short list to getting into the firm to actually doing something on a day-to-day basis.
Great, Shara. Thank you so much. I know you mentioned about writing your CV really well, and your CV having a spike point. So, do you recommend using like a professional CV writing, or is this something the students can do themselves? And are there examples of CVs that they can see online, and any recommendations about those?
So see, all the B schools typically have a very standard format of writing their CVs. So honestly, there is no requirement of using a professional CV maker because it is not about the structure of the CV. It basically doesn't involve any creative thinking as such,
Right.
as to what do I put first, what do I put second, because the structure is more or less standard. Now, where you will need to be a little creative, not creative exactly, but where you need to put your thoughts is, uh, how do you quantify your work? So if you have work experience and if you have, suppose you say that when I was working at a startup, I increased the revenue from whatever 10 crores to 20 crores, for example. Okay? Then you need to quantify it that it was from 10 to 20, from X to Y, some metrics to quantify your impact. Because even in consulting, whenever we are always judged on our metrics, how much profit have we been able to increase for the client, how much sales have been increased for the client. So that is typically it. There is no requirement of hiring a professional CV maker. Of course, you need to go through a CV multiple times. There are at least 20 to 25 iterations and versions of the CV. And of course, you can take your seniors' help because, like, when I was in first year, I used to reach out to a lot of seniors. At least I got my CV reviewed from 10 to 15 people. And then when I was in that position, when I was in my second year, I did the same for, the incoming batch. So that's how it typically goes.
Great. That's I think that's a great tip, taking recommendations from your seniors is always helpful. We have a student asking, are there any certification courses that would be better to add to the CV, especially for students from non-engineering backgrounds?
Uh, so see, I am from non-engineering background, and there is no certificate as such. See, you can do your Coursera sort of certifications, Coursera, Udemy, etc. But these are the certificates which are typically in most of the CVs. So these do not make you stand out in any manner. So rather than certifications, I would rather suggest someone to focus on some internships. For example, if you have 2 months before joining the college, try to join some internship. Try to get some actual hands-on experience. That will be more beneficial than any certificate because certificates are just online. And a lot of people show them in their CVs.
Correct. I mean, just adding to that point, we have a question. Does family business count in a work experience when you add that to your CV?
Well, yes, it does count. But then again, it depends on college to college. What do they consider as family business? What do they not consider as family business? But even if it counts, there are certain proofs which you need to present. For example, if you joined your family business as a director or something, then there has to be a date of initiation when you joined as director. Or there has to be, some salary or something which is coming in your account every month which you're withdrawing from your family business. There has to be some way to prove, because family business is something where where anybody can come up and say that I was running my family business. So every college has their own checks and balances in place to ensure that a family business sort of work experience is actually authentic. But yes, it does count.
Great. Um, how do you how would you say that you can distinguish management consultant from other branches of management, like say product management or strategy and operation? Does management consultant still encompass some of these aspects, or are they or would you say are they completely different branch and there is no overlap when we talk about this?
Well, so see, management consultant is a very generic role. Honestly, if somebody is doing a specialized in sales or marketing, Then as a management consultant, if I get on a sales or marketing enhancement project, I will be also doing the same thing which a proper sales and marketing guy is doing. I will also be doing market visits, etc. Product management, you are designing apps, you're designing UI UX, etc. So a lot of startups, etc., have their own product managers, but a lot of established companies do not have their own product managers. So they hire companies like us. So for example, I have worked on a project for a very big bank in India to design their app. So that is, again, there is some overlap between the product management, what they do, and what I have done, because I have designed their UI UX. I have figured out how the flow of the app should look like, etc., etc.
Correct.
Strategy and operations, of course, it's a part of the management consulting. That is what we do day in, day out, making the strategy for the businesses and ensuring that the operations run smoothly. So yes, there is an overlap between all of this, but where the difference lies is product management is a very specialized field. You will be only doing product management, as long as you're in that field. Same for strategy and operation. But management consulting, we do this, but we also do a lot of other stuff. So if you're looking to build some deep speciality, some deep expertise in say product management, then you should definitely go for product management. But for all those folks who have not yet been able to decide, what do they want as a career, then management consulting, it's a good pathway to decide what you want to do in your life.
Okay, and talking about, some background that some of these students have had before. I mean, if someone has, say, a UPSC background or has been working in the manufacturing industry, can they use these to their advantage when they're recruiting? I mean, can these be highlighted on the CV, and would these count for them when they get to the interview stage?
Well, absolutely yes, they can use it to their advantage, provided they are able to answer questions in their own domain, in their own field. So, for example, even for a UPSC candidate, the general expectation is that because that person has pursued UPSC, he would have read a lot of news, he would be aware about what's going on in the world, Uh, so even when you are actually appearing for the interview, they will have that sort of expectation that this person knows what's happening around the world. Or for so for example, I am a CA, okay? So in my interview, I was asked questions on very similar lines on finance, on numbers, how do I calculate the EBIT ratio, etc., etc. So my real case in the interview was actually built around a merger and acquisition case where I had to evaluate a company based on certain financial parameters like sales, revenue, synergies, EBIT, etc. You need to be good in whatever you are saying. You may be saying UPSC, that is also okay. Management consulting does not bias between these different fields. But yes, you just need to prove whatever you have done, you have actually put your heart and soul into it.
Great. Thank you so much. Moving on, as we discussed earlier, wanted to talk about, the typical career progression in terms of a management consultant. What is your work like day in, day out? How does a day in the life of management consultant look like? And obviously, we've heard that these kind of roles require a lot of working hours. So if you can throw light on how your typical day looks like, that will be very, very helpful, Sharad.
Yeah, I just saw that in the chat. The first question was, are the working hours
Work-life
really?
balance, correct? Yes.
Uh, well, the work-life balance, the short answer is yes, it's bad. Everybody knows that. Uh, but a lot of it depends on how you plan your work, how you plan your module. So see, how a typical day in management consultant's life is: you're given a module, you need to figure out how to reach the answer to that module on your own within a certain deadline. So you are given, for example, within 1 month, you need to close this module, you need to close that. How you plan your day, it all depends on you. Uh, so as I had said, there is a lot of client interaction because we first need to understand our client's position, where they are, what is their problem statement, where are they getting stuck. Then it involves a lot of market research, because typically what happens is whenever we are solving some problem for any client, it has been addressed by some other company in the past already. We just need to identify the best kind of solution for our client. So we do a lot of expert calls. We engage with a lot of external stakeholders like their distributors, their sales team, their customers. We do a lot of surveys and interviews with them to understand the root cause of the problem, and then basis all that we try to devise a answer to the problem. So how a day would typically look like is, you will be spending at least 2 to 3 hours with clients, at least 2 to 3 hours on various calls, experts, etc., etc. The rest of the time you are actually analyzing all the information that you have collected, and preparing them and making them, like making decks on them as to present the problem, present it to the senior stakeholders, etc. So that is how a typical day looks like. But of course, there may be variations depending on the kind of project you are. So for example, you may also be on a PMO project where you have to just run a project, you don't need to do any problem solving. So in that case, there is only client interaction. You just need to ensure that all the things are running on track. uh, so work life balance, of course, you can optimize it to a certain extent. I will not say it's good. It's definitely not good. Even for the best of the people, the work life balance is not good. You do not expect a 10 to 6, 10 to 7 kind of job. But how you plan your day is very important. So what I have observed is that, if there is something that you want to do every day, if I want to go for a run every day, if I want to hit gym every day, you just need to ensure you are blocking 1 hour for yourself every day. It can be in the morning, it can be in the evening. And people understand that, this person has his goals apart from the work also, and they respect that. So if you say that morning 7 to 8, morning 8 to 9, I will not be available, people respect that. That's okay. uh, and if there is anything which is coming up, any event or something, people expect you to keep them informed in advance so that they do not schedule any meeting at that time. So that way you can optimize your work life for yourself. You can take out time for, for your own things. But at the same time you will need to compensate for it. So for example, if for some event I'm taking a half day off on any weekday, typically I need to work on the weekend as well to compensate for it.
Great. You did speak about projects, and Sharad, can you highlight on some of the more exciting projects that you have been a part of? Any example that will be useful to our students?
Well, I was a part of the project in my internship, and it was a very different experience for me. As I said, I am a chartered accountant, and I was given the project to optimize the efficiency of a plant. So basically, there was a plant, there was a metal smelting plant, and we needed to optimize the running hours of that plant. So that plant in India typically runs at 87-88% of the capacity. Similar plants in Japan, and Korea, they run at 96-97% efficiency. So that was a very interesting module for me because I got to understand the different parts of the plant. Because, even for an engineer, that level of depth, they typically do not get in their academic courses also, to the kind of depth that I went into. What is the function of each part of the plant? How frequently is it maintained, etc., etc. Apart from that, so I have not been, a part of a Gen AI project, but that is like uh, the burning hot topic right now. So we are doing a lot of projects on the Gen AI for multiple clients. How can they use Gen AI to address their customer concerns? So that is really something that cool we are doing. So everybody knows Chat GPT. So we are building Chat GPT for our clients. Chat GPT sort of thing where the customers can come, even their employees. For organizations with very huge manpower. Um, they can have a chatbot where all their employee concerns can be addressed. So a lot of things are happening around Chat GPT and tech also, so to say.
Okay. And how big is AI as well at the moment? Because AI is all over the place. I mean, do you have any projects that you've been involved with AI as such?
So as I said, I have not been involved, but of course, a few of my friends have been involved on those projects. And what we think, what we have. So I have attended a lot of sessions internally within the firm on AI, and
Right.
what we feel is that AI is just going to, it's just going to boom. and a lot of investment is going around on AI, like a lot of investment, like even chat gpt are releasing versions after versions. They are
Correct.
currently training on chat gpt version 5. um, a lot of companies are actually, a lot of traditional companies, which were not the pioneers of tech, so to say, they are also investing a lot of money in their AI thing, because they also know that this is the next big thing to come. So a lot of research is going on, a lot of training is happening, and a lot of our privacy is also at stake, so to say, on the
Great.
AI. But
Great example, Sharad. I mean, obviously, you are working with an MBB. So, can you tell us what a typical career progression in the different consulting firms of MBB look like? I mean, where do you move on and forward?
Uh, so typically begins as an associate or a junior consultant, associate, senior associate, junior consultant. Different firms have different names for this. But how it typically works is, after MBA, before you become a project manager, you typically spend 4 years in associate or consultant sort of role, where you do not run a project, but you run separate modules on the project. For the next 4 years, you are project managers, where you run the entire project, where you manage a team of people, 4, 6, 8 people. Uh, and then you go on to become a partner. So it's typically 8 to 10 years in the firm before you actually become a partner with any of these MBB firms. This is the internal career trajectory, what it looks like. The roles and responsibilities, of course, vary. As an associate or a consultant, you are required to, focus on your modules, deliver your modules on time. And of course, if you're tagged any intern or any analyst or anyone, you're expected to get the best out of them as well. But as project manager, you're expected to run the entire team, deliver the entire project on time, ensure all the client stakeholders are, they are not pissed off, they are in line with you. uh, this is within the firm. Outside of the firm, there are a lot of opportunities, because, as I said, consulting is typically where you come and you are not able to decide what you want to do in life. So maybe you spend a few years in consulting, experience a few different projects, one banking, one industrial goods, one consumer goods, and probably figure out what suits you the best, what captures your interest the most, and then you take a exit into that industry. So that's how it looks like.
Great, Sharad. So, uh, what should a CAT 24-25 aspirant do to prepare themselves for a consulting career while they are in college? I mean, are there any particular skill sets one needs to pursue before they think of becoming a consultant? Any highlights on these?
So honestly, from a management consulting point of view, you do not need to prepare as such. But
Right.
what I would rather advise them is, this is the time to make your CV strong. Try to get into internships, try to get into not-for-profit projects, because strengthening your CV is not a 1 month process. It begins 2 years, 3 years in advance. You know, you force yourself to experience different kind of things, to experience different kind of projects, and then you try to showcase that you actually have a lot of experience in these sort of fields, and you can, if somebody picks you up, that you have done a lot of these things. So no prep is required as such for management consulting, but just focus on your scores, honestly, because your scores are what, really, it really matters the most. And apart from that, your extra curricular activities on your CV.
Right. And Anusha, a while ago we spoke about internships and the kind of internship these students do would also play a big role on their CV. So are there any tips on how we can convert these internships into placement and what ideally they can do at these internships to sort of, build a strong resume for themselves?
Uh, yeah, sure. So see, so first thing is that you need to decide what sort of internship do you want to get into. You basically need to have a story in your CV. So, for example, somebody looks at your CV and somebody gives a first quick glance and can say, okay, this guy is interested in marketing, for example. So, what are the things which will be, which will be there on your CV? You would have done a few marketing courses, few digital marketing courses, apart from that, a few internships, so to say. Suppose in a startup where the startup wants to increase its presence in the market, or maybe a company which wants to increase its search engine optimization, all those kind of things. So whatever you are doing, uh, try to build a story around it, and then try to get into the internship, because one internship in sales, one internship in finance, one internship in operations, your CV looks all over the place. uh, so if you can build a story around it, because that also helps you drive the conversations in an interview. So whenever you are in an interview and a partner is questioning you, okay, what is your interest? So you can of course say, yeah, I'm deeply passionate about marketing, and and you can back it up with all your internships, etc. And I think getting into internships is not a very difficult task, because a lot of these companies directly come to the colleges to hire their interns and all. Just be very particular about what exactly do you want to pursue. If you want to pursue marketing, then do it that way accordingly. If you want to pursue finance, do it that way.
Great. So, I mean, as you said, work experience is a very strong background for one to actually get into management consulting. So, is there any tips on how this can be highlighted, say in your resume or when you are a part of you're in college? I mean, what do you do to sort of build that up very strongly?
See, work experience, if you can show that you have been awarded any particular certificate, like employee of the year sort of thing, star performer or something, that is one thing. Or maybe a promotion. You were fast track promoted. It typically takes 2 years. You were promoted in a year and a half. That is like a very very good green flag. Apart from that, if as I had said, please quantify your work, because you will need proofs for everything. You cannot just write anything on your CV in your B school. You need proof for all your work experience. So whenever you are talking to your manager or whosoever you are working with, just be sure that you are always able to sort of um, quantify your impact, so that whenever you are asking for proof, they are on the same page, and they also agree to it, that yes, this person has helped the company to save so and so crores, or this person actually led a project which led to a sales growth of so and so. uh, so these are the two three things, some good certificates, some promotions, and quantification of an impact in your job.
Great. Sharad, obviously you have a finance background. So just a question on what made you choose management consulting over finance? I mean, was that a choice you made during your internship? What is your personal experience about, choosing this field?
Okay, so honestly, I am a chartered accountant, and I did my 3 years of articleship in taxation. So I was very passionate about taxation. I thought that this is what I want to do in my life. So after I got done with my CA, I joined EY again in the taxation department. I did it for a year, and then I figured out that no, this is not what I want to do, because this is becoming monotonous. I want to try something new. And if you've spent 4 years in taxation, 3 years of articleship, and then 1 year of workex, it becomes very difficult for you to switch fields. That is the hard reality. If you want to get into core finance roles, like private equity, investment banking, or you want to get into management consulting, it becomes very difficult, because they just don't see you that way. So the obvious next step for me was to go for MBA, because that would have helped me, to sort of pivot my career. And that's when I decided to go for MBA. And I always wanted to go for management consulting, because I was not sure of what I want to do. So I thought, as I'm telling a lot of people, if you're not sure of what you want to do, for example, after taxation, I was just not sure. I I'm here, and I'm still figuring out, you know, what is it that I want to do actually after consulting.
Great. what would you say would be a good exit opportunity for management consultants?
Well, so see, management consultants have a lot, like, a wide variety. Uh, Strategy roles are the most common ones. A lot of companies are hiring for, uh, founder's office, CEO's office, chief of staff, uh, all these kind of strategy roles. A lot of startups are also hiring for these, and I have seen, a lot of exits in these sort of roles. People have also taken exits in product management. Um, so to say that, because you have worked on a product management sort of project, for say 6 months or a year, you start understanding the basics of the product management, and then you can, probably switch to a company which is looking for a product manager sort of role. A lot of people have also gone into private equity, although it's a little difficult because private equities after MBA typically hire from colleges directly. But nonetheless, there are opportunities to get into private equity as well. And apart from that, pretty much anything. A lot of people have gone into operation roles. A lot of people have gone into sales roles, but that was primarily because they were able to figure out while doing management consulting that I just want to do sales. I have done one sales project, I delivered, and I felt that it suits me pretty well, so I will just go for a sales role. So pretty much you can go into everything, but typically it is product management, strategy roles, private equity, these sort of roles.
Sure. And in terms of the consulting firms, what I mean, are they looking at freshers without work experience? Do they have an opportunity as well to apply, or is their preference about hiring folks only with work experience?
Um, so see, I'll tell you, a good to have work experience for management consulting is typically 15 to 21 months. That is a good to have. It's not a lot. It's decent. Freshers, yes, they are hired, but as I said, the problem, which I thought a lot of my fresher friends were facing is that when you have work experience, you have a lot more to add in your CV, a lot more to speak about,
Correct.
because freshers have just passed out from college. They typically do not have a lot to put on their CV apart from academics and, few internships maybe. That is one problem. So it's recommended that you gain some work experience. But having said that, freshers do get selected, and in fact, I know at least 3 to 4 of my friends who have gotten into management consulting while they were freshers. They were fresh out of college. They went for their MBA, and now they are doing pretty well in management consulting also. What is not recommended is more than 30, 33, 36 months of work experience. Too much of work experience for management consulting, they typically, sort of do not prefer these candidates because if somebody has spent 36 months in a role, it is because as I said, consulting is a very generalist kind of role. If
Right.
somebody has spent 3 years in a role, then, expecting that person to, look at an entirely different thing. So if I've done 3 years of finance, and then if they tell me, go look after a efficiency of a plant, maybe, my mind will just think in a particular direction. So that is, again, as I said, it's not that they will not hire anyone post 30, 33 years of work experience. I know I have friends who have been hired even after 33 years of work experience. But the ideal good to have work experience is between 15 to 20, 22 months types.
Right. And are there any specific kind of internship roles that freshers can actually do to make them stand out and, highlight them in their CV? Are there any suggestions you have from your experience?
So see, as I said, your CV should make a story. Your
Correct.
CV should be representative of what you are as a person.
Right.
So whatever internship you're doing, just make sure that it sends some story. If you're doing 3 internships in 3 different fields, doesn't make sense. You do 3 internships in a particular field, okay, this person is interested in this particular thing. That is number one. Number two, it's always good to have brands on your CV. Whenever you say that you have done your internship with a BSc listed company or a very popular sort of startup, say for example Swiggy or Flipkart or anything of that sort, that always adds value to it versus a small company, or a company which is not very popular. A lot of people do not know the name of that company. That is, sort of given less weightage, less importance. So try to, so of course, I understand that smaller companies give more opportunities to learn. A lot of times people say that, but whenever you have a brand in your favor, it sorts of adds to a credibility. So just these two things, that ensure that your CV says a line, even in term says a story, even in terms of your of the roles or internship you're going for.
Great. And does your GMAT or CAT score in any way help to build your CV at all?
No, your GMAT or CAT score only helps you land a good college. Once you have landed in your college, your CAT score does not play any role there.
Okay. And any, say, career gap or career break, is there any way you can work around that if you're looking at a consultant role?
Yes, of course you can. But then that depends what sort of career break are you referring to. So, for example, if somebody has done UPSC, tried UPSC for 2 or 3 years, won't go through, that's okay. You can always justify, I tried UPSC, I wanted to do that. I did so and so. Couldn't crack it. Now I'm here at MBA. I had friends at college who had tried, who had tried UPSC for like 3 to 4 years. They couldn't do it. They decided that they'll go for MBA, and they even got shortlists from MBB firms. So that's okay. You can always justify that. But as I said, uh, if they ask you questions around that field, around, for example, UPSC, you should be aware about general knowledge. You need to answer those questions, because otherwise it just doesn't look good. Your other career breaks can be, because of health reasons or something. My health was not well, so I had taken a 6 month break from my job. That's okay. Your health was not well, you took that call. That's very good. Then to resume my career, I decided to go for MBA. That's okay. That's fine. But if there is any break where just not able to justify that, you were unemployed, but you just did nothing. You were just lying idle. Then that sorts of create a problem. So maybe you can try building a story around it, that why I had done this, what I was doing in that time. But typically, yes, there has to be some good reason behind your break, and that's okay. Like, people have in India, people have started accepting these sort of breaks, so that's fine.
Great. I think, Sharad, we've covered a wide range of topics today. So just doing a recap, we've gone through pointers for the interview process, and how what different kind of internships can help to stand out, and spiking your CV. So highlighting your CV is key in sort of getting through the interview process, and obviously different courses. And you've also highlighted how a typical day looks like in the life of management consultant. So I think we've definitely covered a wide range of topics. So as we near the end of this session, any key pointers, any examples from your journey to XLRI, and from there to BCG, anything that is your personal career progression, that you pointers that you would like to share, which our students can pick up and note down?
Well, I'd say, honestly, you do not need to worry a lot about getting into management consulting, etc. It's, it'll just happen over time. If you want it, you will work in that direction. Before you are, before, like when you're preparing for CAT, just try to focus on that particular task at hand. If you're focusing on CAT, try to just nail it. Try to get into a very good college, one of the top 5, top 10 sort of colleges. So that pretty much solves a lot of your problems, honestly. Just whatever you're doing, just excel at it, without thinking of very long term consequences or something. Just focus on the task at hand, because that is what I had done. At least when I was even doing taxation at EY, I was just focusing that, maybe I want to switch, I want to pivot, but whatever task I'm doing right now, I just need to focus on that. And second, just start working on your CV. It's not a 1 day job. It's not a 1 month job. It begins 2 years in advance. Try to do sort of internships. Try to do sort of projects which help you build a story around your CV. Apart from that, nothing specific that you need to do for consulting as of now. And this CV building part, it is relevant not just for management consulting. For any other role that you are, targeting, a good CV and backed up by a few internships, backed up by a few projects, it always helps.
Great. Thank you so much, Sharad. And before I let you go, there's just 6 months left for CAT exam. Any advice for the entrance exam preparees during this period?
Just practice as many mocks as you can, just that. But I think IMS actually ensures that anyway, that candidates have a lot of experience, a lot of exposure to the CAT like exam before the actual CAT. So that's fine, I think. But I think you should just focus on mocks a lot and try to work on your areas where you think you are just not able to crack it. The choice of questions is very important. Please figure out for yourself what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Whenever you see a question that doesn't work for you, do not spend any time on it. Just try to build that sort of practice in your head. I think that should be good.
Great. Thank you, Sharad, so much for your time and your insights. And I'm sure all our students had a great, valuable takeaway from this session today. So thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, for attending this session. And obviously, you can find Sharad on LinkedIn. He's got a great profile. So if there's anything, you can definitely reach him on LinkedIn. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Take care.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye.